Gary and I are going to tag team this morning just to kind of mix it up and keep you all awake. Watch different presenters. Gary's going to lead off just basically first giving you an overview. We have just a few projects in our queue.
We've done an update of the master plan earlier, but the difference we're going to do today is we're going to tie this back to the strategic plan. You know, buildings are more than just brick and mortar. They really tie to what this university is about. And that very massive strategic planning process we went through early really has played out in terms of how the master plan was developed, and then also how we're moving forward with implementing it. So our goal today is to show you how the master plan, the brick and the mortar, fits with all the other pieces of the university and the strategic plan. But first I want to share with you a number of the projects that we have going on the campus. So this is the master plan as it finally was completed. It's available on our website, on our facility services website. But I'd like to just quickly show you the locations of the number of the projects that are going on, and then we'll get into the specifics. So the first project down here, you've already seen it going up, the Summit Village expansion. That consisted of two pieces actually. 18 beds were built in a conversion, and then 192 beds in the new facilities, and Susan will talk a little more about that. The next project is the Lane Center. You've probably seen those big piles of dirt down on North Nevada. We're actually able to excavate the dirt and then retain some of it to put back, and I'll talk about the Lane Center a little bit more. So the next project, doesn't want to click, there we go. A parking facility with a recreational field on top, and that project is in design, and Susan will talk about that one a little more. And then a rec center expansion. The students voted to extend their fee or expand their fee to pay for an expansion of the rec center, and so that's the location. Both remodeling of the rec center and an expansion into parking lot 8. We're also, Susan's doing an evaluation of adding more housing to the campus. That came out of the master plan study as well. And let's keep this going. We're looking at a health and wellness building number 2 that would be associated with the Lane Center, and I have a graphic to show that to you and expand on that. And then we're doing a feasibility study. We're just getting started on that on the visual and performing arts. I'll talk a little more about that one. And then a track and soccer field in the athletic region of the campus. So there's a few projects either under construction, in design, or we're looking at moving forward with. There we go. So the Lane Center, I'd just like to talk about that for a second. This is a very exciting project. I think it relates to the strategic plan in a number of ways. We've kind of listed the ideas down here: academic programs and research, revenue growth, expanding our infrastructure in the partnerships. And this is a really exciting facility in my mind. The College of Nursing and Health Sciences is going to be partly located down there. They're going to have some wellness program pieces. Some of those pieces will be on their own, like a nutrition kitchen and a gym for exercise. But then there's also going to be a component of the wellness that's going to work directly with Peak Vista. So they've actually are going to be co-located on the same floor, sharing exam rooms, working together. And then on another floor we have the CU Aging Center, the Gerontology Center, and the Trauma Health and Hazard Center. And they all are going to work together along with a few staff in the psych department that are associated with CU Aging and Gerontology. And then on the 4th floor of the School of Medicine, you've probably all been reading and heard about that whole transformation with Memorial Hospital, et cetera, and we're going to have a branch medical campus that we're working towards developing here. The first piece of this is to work with the School of Medicine to have 3rd and 4th year students down here on our campus. I view this center as really exciting, and imagine this, if you will. You have an elderly parent that you bring into Peak Vista who has some challenges. They do some diagnosis, maybe recommend them to the CU Aging Center or Gerontology Center for some help with maybe Alzheimer's or some other challenges. Maybe they have some nutritional issues, and so they could be advised to come to the nutrition kitchen, which will be in the facility on a Tuesday evening, and get some nutritional help. or maybe they have some physical challenges, and so they could come on Thursday evenings to the gym. And so it's going to be a nice integrated center, a great community partnership, but it's also integrated with our academic programs as well. So it's not just this only a community center. It's a nice partnership. So that's the Lane Center. And I'll turn this over to Susie.
Thank you. So if you haven't seen Summit Village expansion, you haven't been walking anywhere to the west or driving anywhere to the west of probably Osborne, because it's hard to miss right now. We will open this in August of this year. We're selling rooms, so we have to open it in August of this year. It's just not an option. We're very excited to have this open, and we do see that this ties to a lot of our strategic goals that are in our strategic plan 2012-2020. I've identified 7 of them there for you, but I do want to point out that it's possible to draw a link between these projects with just about every goal that we have set. We just have picked out those that have a pretty significant impact to what we want to do as a campus as we grow over the next now 7 years, because it's 2013. Clearly, it's linked to student success. Many of you know that last fall we had a real challenge. We actually ran out of rooms, and we knew we were out of rooms right around the first part of June. We were seeing us going in that direction and started working to find options, and it's interesting that we signed the contract the day before the fire. So we had the fire, plus then we had about 4 weeks to purchase the furnishings, get all of the utilities switched, work on our IT infrastructure, hire RAs, hire a manager to come in and help work that facility and get it ready. And I really do think that's a team effort from a lot of people in this room, from all different divisions. We had a lot of help from academic affairs, from student success, and admin finance to do that. But it did probably contribute to our ability to make many of our enrollment goals this last fall, particularly with our out-of-state student mix. This also ties to international programs, because the Office of International Affairs will be in this building, and that will be a very welcome change for them. They're a little scattered around, but it's also going to be great for our students, because they're going to be located in the same building that we've designed with some additional features that may be of interest to our international student client base. Particularly, there'll be a little kitchenette in those suites, which we don't have in any of our first-year experience rooms right now. And that's to assist in any kind of particular food preparation that's necessary, and to segregate that food preparation from hand washing and other sink areas around the bathroom. Campus community, clearly, we know that we've seen a difference in the vibrancy on campus with our resident students, and it's contributing to our commuter students as well in terms of how they feel about UCCS and how they're more identifying themselves now as mountain lions. And if you had a chance to go to the basketball game Friday night, that was just absolutely exciting, and the student stands were packed. In fact, the Gallagly Event Center was packed. I started to sweat bullets and try and hide from the Chancellor, because I know the next thing's going to be, this isn't large enough. Of course, she's sitting right there, so I might as well just say it right out there, but these are all good problems to have. Clearly, we see housing as a contributing factor towards a diverse student population in terms of where our students come from, in terms of what we offer for students, and just in terms of the entire communication and community building that we do in housing and the rest of the campus. Our enrollment growth, already mentioned, it's pretty important. Chris Beiswinger starts in about December wanting to know what the application numbers are. Greg starts popping in about March wanting to know what's going on with housing and where are we at. And Matthew, I expect to start seeing emails from him very soon here, what's going on with housing. And we are already up based on last year, although the N is very small, so it's kind of hard to gauge. That clearly contributes to enrollment growth. And if you read the 2012-2020 strategic plan, you'll see that we've pretty much laid it out towards the end of that book, what our enrollment does for our revenue growth, and then our opportunities on campus in terms of expanding academic programs and services. And then, of course, infrastructure, because all of this, you'll see infrastructure on every slide. All of this is building more campus infrastructure, building for the future. I don't know which which way do I go? There we go. Parking garage and recreational field. That is, as Gary said, that's in design. It's a very aggressive schedule. We hope to open this in March of 2014. The program plan calls for 1,227 parking stalls, and the chancellor says that number exactly right now, 1,227. So I turned to the project manager, Charles, and I said, "You cannot change this number." He said, "I think we've changed it. I don't want to hear it." Change it up, that's okay. The really interesting feature here is that it's going to have that playing field on top, and that's part of a combined funding strategy with recreational center revenues as well as parking. To be able to add a field is very important for our campus. If we look at the National Intramural Rec Sport Association NERSA standards, we should have an acre of intramural playing space, field playing space, per 1,000 students. And right now we have 0. We should have about 10. That was a pretty easy equation for justification in the program plan with the region. So we're going to go from 0 to 1. But it is actually a serious problem for us, and anyone in recreational services will tell you it's a problem. Right now we schedule our recreational field activities on Mountain Lion Stadium's field from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. because that's the only time we can get field time. This will be dedicated exclusively to recreational activity. It will not be used for intercollegiate activity, intercollegiate athletic sports at all. So I think that the other part of this that's very exciting is it is a contributor to our sustainability commitment because we are not using as much of a footprint. We're not 1,227 stalls. If you can imagine how big that footprint would be, that's every surface parking lot we have. That takes up a lot of room. We're stacking it. It costs more to do that, but we're saving our land for other important initiatives, one of which is open space, because we still have a strong commitment, if you look at our master plan, to open space. And then by putting the field on top, that's yet another gain. So clearly the student success, but the campus community part is as well, because all of the faculty and staff can join the recreation center. Nina?
Is the field going to be grass, real grass?
No, it'll be artificial turf. Yeah, and we've studied that. Real grass is not a very good idea in our particular climate, and it's also not a good idea in cold climate on top of tons and tons of concrete, where we really do hope it snows for the moisture, and that just causes a lot of problems with the concrete structure that's supporting that field. Actually, we have artificial turf surface in one of the quads over in the housing village that is a very popular space in February, particularly, like now when it's warm, because that's always warm. Academic office building, as Gary showed you, this is going down to the south of where the current parking garage sits, and that building called the City Building will be taken down. Parking will be taken offline during the construction of this project, but will return after it's completed. It's about a $16 million project, and that's to put 4 finished stories, and we'll put a 5th floor that we will not finish. And we're going to lock off the elevator at floor 4 because we really don't want the 5th floor to turn into those of you who've been around a while will know what I say, former science crawl space. So those of you who've been here a while know what that looked like. We're going to try and prevent the 5th floor of academic office building from becoming the storage center for the university. It will open in the fall of 2014. I think Gary is still working to fine-tune some of the office areas, but it's going to have about 100 offices. It will have no classrooms in it at all. And graduate school, or I still said that, SPA. School of Public Affairs. Terry and Mary Lou aren't here. Okay, good. We need to cut that out of the web stream. School of Public Affairs will be there, and a variety of LAS departments will be there as well. As you can see, academic programs are very linked to this particular building. It's really important to have faculty if we're going to have academic programs, and it's really important for faculty to have a place to work and meet with students and conduct their research and their preparation for classes, etc. Student success, campus community, obviously enrollment growth, revenue growth, and infrastructure are part of this building. Recreation center expansion. That design work is going to start here in probably the next 2 to 3 months. We should be going out with the request for proposal from design teams later this month and then picking a team. We will not break ground till after the parking garage opens in March of 14, which is really one of the reasons we're pushing this garage. We've got to replace the parking by the rec center before we take it away, because it is a cultural universal on university campuses that you build parking and put in the infrastructure, so 5 years later you can dig it up and put in a building, and that's what we're doing. And that's why we're putting in the garage, which I'm very excited about. It's the first time I can remember we're putting parking in before we take it away. It's like, that's my thing. Actually, it's not my thing so much as it is Jim Spice's now, but some of us can't get out of our past. This is a very exciting building to expand. We will be adding another two-court gymnasium because, again, our activity is so robust in the rec center that we can't really accommodate all of our patrons during certain times. They have peak times just like retail has peak times at Christmas, and there are times you cannot get on a machine, so we will be expanding the fitness floor as well. We're definitely expanding our shower situation. I think we have 6 showers per area, 6 women, 6 men, and that isn't really adequate for 10,000 students and then the faculty and staff. So that's going to get a nice increase as well. One of the things that we're also studying, and I'm still trying to figure out the money on this, we'll probably know by the end of this month, is the addition of a wellness center, adding about another 11,000 gross square feet to this project, where we would then move the student health center and student counseling and combine those departments into one service center and really create a specific entrance and welcome area for our students who are looking for those services. And it can actually give us some pretty significant economies of scale operating wise to combine them just in terms of front office support staff and back office support staff and then collaboration between the providers. So Binnick and Stephanie are working with me on the feasibility study for that, and we'll have that figured out before we go out with the RFP for the designer. Clearly, student success, campus community, enrollment growth, and revenue growth and infrastructure. And it is true that our students did vote an increase in their fee. They voted it in. It had a very high vote count of the number of students who voted. It was the highest number with a yes. So that fee will kick in the fall of 2014. The rec center will open in probably fall of 15. Oh, new housing complex. Right now, we've completed a feasibility study with an architectural firm that Gary and I worked on with them, and it's now in the stage of trying to see if we can financially model this as a viable option for us. Now, one of our big challenges as we look at the strategic plan is that we need to have over 13,000 students by 2020. And that may not be something we can achieve if we don't have the appropriate first-year experience living for these students. And this is particularly true with students who come from out of our local market where they can't commute. And that doesn't mean necessarily out of state. It could be Denver, and it could be the southern part of the state. It's the western slope. These students have a desire to live on campus. Their parents have a significant desire for them to live on campus. And Barbara and Greg and Chris and Ralph and Tamara and I are very, very intimately acquainted with that desire of parents for their child to live here. But we also know, based on some really good work that Barbara and the First Year Experience Office has been doing in studying the different cohorts going through housing, that we're almost 5% higher. Our students are likely to be successful, retained, and graduate if they have that first-year experience on campus. So there's a lot of reasons to have additional housing in the future. When this will be, I don't know. When it will start, when it will finish. We're still layering that in. I've had some good discussions with Greg and with Chris and others on how we're building this enrollment growth and our targeted recruitments. And Homer, of course, has had a huge part in that, as has Brian Burnett and the Chancellor. But it's a pretty big price tag. Right now, 500 beds with a dining hall is coming in at around $72 million. So this isn't something that we want to enter into lightly, and it does cause me it's one of those things that does cause me sleepless nights.
Where would this one?
This would be over in, right now the place we sited it, and siting areas can always change, but right now what we've been looking at is parking lot number 9, which is north of Alpine Village. And it's actually another reason that we have cited the new parking garage at the corner of Stanton and Austin Bluffs, because that parking garage could pick up that housing parking need. We would be replacing, we'd have to be replacing over 400 parking stalls in Lot 9. And the feasibility showed us that we could actually mass about 900 to, even depending on how high our towers went, we could probably get higher than 900 beds eventually. So this would be like a phase 1. Our real issue with Summit Village is we're landlocked. We have to have a first-year village where students can comfortably walk to eat. The dining hall is their kitchen. And we could not be putting students out north of Alpine Village and expect them to walk to our current dining hall. Also, our current dining hall can't expand. We're going to do a little expansion this summer to accommodate the new towers, and that's it. We've run out of land. Coffee shop. So some of you may not have heard about the coffee shop. Aren't you? The students have heard about it. The Chancellor got cornered last night. When's the coffee shop going up? This is actually kind of fun, and this is a project that Gary and I, because we work on so many of these, and I figure out the funding, and he figures out how it's all going to lay out in the schedule and assign the staff, and then Gary and I oftentimes, I walk away unless they're running out of money, and Gary is only coming in if they're having like a lot of infrastructure issues. But this is when Gary and I are going to take ownership of, because we are so excited about the coffee shop. So if any of you are in Columbine, and I know looking around, many of you are, that little coffee shop is a little out of space. It is really performing well, but we can't grow it in any way. And now we're adding an academic office building with, potentially 100 more faculty located just down the hill. So we've looked at the space that used to be the basketball court, the old basketball court, that is just to the west of Columbine Hall, south of the Summit Village. And we did a feasibility study where we could place an appropriate-sized standalone coffee shop there. That one is definitely going to happen. We just haven't queued it in as to when it will start. There will be a branded shop. Don't know the brand yet. We're looking at a lot of different options. But the idea here is that it will have inside dining opportunities like you would expect at a Starbucks. Wireless, of course. But the views there are so fantastic that we think it could be a wonderful student and faculty social engagement space. So we'll be looking at outdoor space, rooftop dining, and we want to, now I hesitate to say this. Gary's like, you're not really going to say that, are you? Yeah, I am. We're really going to try and make this our first LEED Platinum building. And this is why Gary and I are excited, because we're going to put a lot of sustainable features in that we haven't been able to afford in other buildings, and that we'd like to try on a smaller scale. It would be a lot better to try it on a scale this size than on a housing complex that's $72 million. That has a greater impact if we mess up. So we're very much looking forward to rain gardens and reuse of water that's just used to rinse vegetables, maybe having separate plumbing that takes that water right out to a garden. And again, of course, we'll have all the amenities, the wireless, and I think our biggest problem with this coffee shop is we won't build it big enough. I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. But again, the footprint is restrictive. So people have said, when's that going to be? I don't know. But I think that it maybe sometime fall 14, spring 15. It's really not an opening that's tied to the academic calendar. So we try not to push these dates where we have to open. Carolyn, we have to open. And Jeff, Summit Village, expansion, August. Yes, we do. Or those students are going home with both of you. We have to hit that date. But something like this, we don't. And as Gary has often said, you can get 3 things in construction, or you can have 3 things in construction, you can get 2 of the 3. You can get price, quality or schedule. But you're not going to get all three. So we're going to really go after the quality and the pricing on this project. And I think it's now Gary's turn. Maybe it's dead. Tim's checking it for me. Tyson's checking it. Well, maybe you'll be magical with it.
Oh.
No, Tim did that. You didn't do that.
So just to follow up on a couple of the feasibility studies we're doing, the building that's kind of in the center of that drawing is the Lane Center. And while it'll look a little different than this, it'll look substantially like that. Then you can see a bridge-connected facility sitting up on the knoll, and that was a first look at adding additional facilities down there that would be health and wellness oriented. We are also taking a look to, which would be to the left of the Lane Center building, to the north of it, as a potential alternate site. The idea that we're looking at here is to continue to expand the community connection with potential health partners in town, as well as expanding the academic connection with those community partners. And there's a number of things that are underway taking a look at that. My charge right now is to sort out the size of the building, the location, and the costs, et cetera. And once we sort of get that fitted together, we can start to see who the occupants might be. Oh, all right. So visual and performing arts. If you know where the Four Diamonds parking lot is down there next to this, that's where this building is sitting. So we wipe out more parking. The visual performing arts is, if you're familiar with that department, they're actually, along with the Gallery of Contemporary Art and Theater Works, you kind of take that group of visual performing arts amenities, and they are scattered literally from one end of the campus to the other. We have a building south of the campus where set building goes on. The Fine Arts Studio is down in the modulars down on near North Nevada. You've got Theater Works and U-Haul. You couldn't hardly separate these programs across this campus. So our goal here is to not only bring the Gallery of Contemporary Art and Theater Works together, but the academic theater program and the art program, art history program, film studies programs, and bring them together into one facility. We probably will not be doing this as one large building. What we're showing here is basically a piece of this which would be oriented towards the performing arts side of it to start with. And then maybe the Gallery of Contemporary Art would fit in there as well, which is a visual art piece. So we've just started the process. We've identified the architect that's going to help us, a firm that's done a lot of work here in the state of Colorado on visual and performing arts facilities to help guide us through the feasibility study. And then, if you remember the last little thing on the map that I showed you, a soccer a field with a track around it, and we're thinking of this as more than, like Mountain Line Field is down at the Four Diamonds area. This would be truly a stadium. And we're working with an artist now, right, to just develop a rendering to get some ideas of what we would like to do. And then we will take this into the next step of a feasibility study to figure out the exact sizes, costs, etc. One of the things that we did when the University Village, Colorado was built, we worked a deal with them where they needed earth to put underneath all the big box stores over there. And so we had them excavate that soils from our property in a way that it would be useful to us. So if you've driven by in North Nevada, you see a temporary parking lot sitting there. That's parking lot 15 to help alleviate some of the parking problems. But that is actually the arena site. And then just to the east of that, up the hill a ways, there's a bowl already been cut out of the hillside to take our track. And so all that dirt's across the street, and it didn't cost us anything to get there. So one of those kind of partnerships, again, to get where we're trying to go. So the feasibility study from this will follow from this development so that we can have a rough idea of the facilities. Just to lay this out real quick, to the east side, to the right of the drawing, not shown completely drawn in yet, is the our facilities with maybe some box seating above it. On this side would be the visitors' facilities and entrance, and then at the south end would be the support facilities for the team locker rooms, etc. One of the things that we're looking at is to make this ADA accessible, and so working with the Special Olympics programs, the potential Wounded Warriors programs, etc. So once again, this community connection that the university is very strong in supporting, and the Chancellor supports very much as well. So this won't just be an athletic field for UCCS, this will be a community amenity connecting with the other groups. So, whoops, that went too far. I think that takes us through what's going on the campus. Susan and I would be glad to take any questions you might have.